You've probably been misled into thinking that energy work is either a scam or something reserved only for monks and mystics. But here's the real truth. You were born with the ability to bend energy like a god. You didn't lose this power. It was taken from you. Gradually, silently, it was replaced by textbooks, screens, and routines that taught you to ignore the intelligence of your own body. Remember those sensations you've dismissed as nothing, the tingling in your palms, the pull between your fingers, the heat that seemed to move on its own. You felt it once probably as a child, but you were told to stop imagining things. Society wanted you to be logical, not intuitive, predictable, not powerful. But here's what they never wanted you to discover: energy is not a mystery. It's a system, one that can be trained, tuned, and commanded, not in decades, but in days. And once you grasp how it works, you'll be amazed by how quickly it activates, almost as if it's illegal. From the moment you were born, they began to reshape your connection to power, not the kind glorified in movies, the explosive kind, but the real power, your inner energetic sovereignty, the subtle, unshakable current that runs through your body, beneath your thoughts, shaping every moment of your life. Whether you realize it or not, you were born with access to it, but no one ever taught you how to use it. Why? Because a population that can regulate their own energy, amplify their frequency, and transform internal chaos into power doesn't need rescuing. It doesn't need systems. It doesn't need them. So instead, they replaced it. They swapped subtle energy awareness for school bells, doctrines, and tests to memorize. They told you that intelligence is about information, not intuition. They made you believe stillness equals laziness, obedience equals virtue, and gradually they severed the link between your mind and your bioenergetic field, not because energy doesn't exist, but because it works too well. It's too real. It's too accessible. You were trained to laugh at your potential before you even explored it. Concepts like chi prana or life force were reduced to myths, mysticism, or just martial arts choreography. If you mention them, you're woo-woo. If you pursue them, you're delusional. But that wasn't an accident. It was a systematic strategy. Western science didn't fail to discover energy. It chose not to look for it. They split the body from the mind from the spirit, and declared anything outside of their microscope a myth. And most people believed it. But energy isn't something you believe in. It's something you feel, something you direct, something you become. The great Hermetic systems knew this. The ancient Egyptians, the alchemists, the Taoists, the yogis. They all mapped this power centuries ago. They didn't worship it, they used it. What they discovered was this: your mind is not just a thinking machine. It's a transmitter, a frequency tuner. Your breath isn't just air, it's an interface with the energetic field. Your spine isn't just structural, it's a conduit for subtle energy. Energy is everywhere, but more importantly, it's programmable. Your nervous system is the operating system. But none of this was taught to you. Instead, you were told your body is just a meat suit, your thoughts are random noise, and your intuition is unreliable. You were handed a blueprint designed to keep you in your head and out of your body. But energy doesn't live in the mind. It flows beneath it. To access it, you need to remember what they trained you, to forget that your body's not a cage. It's a channel. Here's something they really don't want you to know. Some of the deeper Hermetic principles can't be openly shared here. That's why we created the Insights Academy, our free newsletter. Sign up through the link below for exclusive insights and a free ebook copy of The Kabbalion, available for a limited time. Because once you start learning to speak the language of energy, not metaphorically, but neurologically, the rules of reality begin to shift. You stop reacting and start creating. You begin to sense before you think. You become aware of the space between events, the part most people miss because they've been trained to override it. You notice how environments feel, how emotions leave residues, how people project fields that either uplift or drain. You learn to hold your own not through effort, but through presence. Power returns not because someone gave it to you, but because you remembered it was with you all along. The lie wasn't that energy work doesn't exist. The lie was that you weren't built to work with it. But the moment you feel it for yourself, that illusion collapses. And once it does, there's no going back. You'll see people differently. You'll feel reality differently. And most importantly, you'll wonder why no one ever told you the truth in the first place. Subtle energy isn't a fantasy. It's not a metaphor. It's real. It's trainable. And it's happening inside and around you right now, whether you're aware of it or not. Most people can't feel it, not because it's weak or hidden, but because their senses have been dulled by overstimulation and disconnection. When people say, I don't feel anything, they're not wrong. They've just lost the ability to perceive what was once natural. Imagine a radio constantly blaring static. You wouldn't notice the melody playing quietly beneath it. That's what modern life has done to your perception of energy. It's not gone, it's buried. Subtle energy, whether you call it chi prana, bioelectricity, or etheric force, is the foundational layer of your experience. It's not some trendy New Age term. It's the field from which all form emerges. In Hermetic terms, it's the animating force that bridges thought and matter. It moves faster than thought, and it precedes biology. Your nervous system doesn't just react to the world, it emits a constant field shaped by your emotional state, your beliefs, and your physical tension. When someone walks into a room and you instantly feel their vibe, that's not intuition. That's energy literacy in action. But subtle energy isn't just something you feel intuitively. It's electromagnetic. It's thermodynamic. It's measurable, not always with standard instruments, but with your body. Your skin, fascia, gut, and palms are loaded with sensory nerve endings, tuned to pick up subtle feedback. But when you've been trained to live in your head to intellectualize everything, you lose the ability to sense. Most people only feel what's loud, pain, heat, tension. They've forgotten how to feel what's quiet. But it's in the quiet where the power lies. You were taught to ignore the sensations that matter most. The warm buzz in your chest when you're fully present. The tingling between your hands when you focus. The sudden chills when truth hits your body before your brain catches up. You were told these were just coincidences or imagination. But that's the entry point. That's where energy begins to speak. The reason it's hard to feel subtle energy isn't because it's difficult. It's because it's subtle. It requires you to slow down, not speed up. It doesn't respond to tension or effort. It responds to attention and neutrality. Energy flows where awareness goes, not force. And most people have never been taught how to hold awareness without demanding results. They seek results instead of relationship. But energy isn't a tool, it's a dialogue. When your nervous system is constantly hijacked by stress distraction or overstimulation, it shuts down your energetic sensitivity as a protective mechanism. It compresses your range, locking you in survival mode, where only fight, flight, and freeze exist. In this state, you're not open to flow, you're locked in defense. So if you're not feeling energy right now, that doesn't mean it's not there. It means your body is still on guard. You haven't been shown how to switch from contraction to openness. And it's not about belief, it's about training. Subtle energy becomes real when you stop trying to force it and start learning to listen to it. That's where things start to shift. When you realize that sensing isn't something you achieve, but something you uncover, everything changes. The more you tune in, the more you realize it was always there beneath your movements, beneath your thoughts, beneath the noise like a signal, just waiting to be noticed. And once you start to feel it, even faintly, everything changes. You begin to move differently, breathe differently, respond differently. You stop treating the body like a machine and start treating it like a vessel. You stop treating awareness like a flashlight and start seeing it as a field. And in that space, subtle energy becomes not just something you feel, but something you direct. That's the first step from passive experience into conscious creation. Most people don't realize their energetic senses aren't broken, they're dormant. You weren't born numb. You were trained to shut down the very parts of you that could sense beyond the physical. Not out of malice, but because we live in a world that only rewards what it can measure, monetize, or package into a curriculum. But energy doesn't play by those rules. It doesn't need belief. It doesn't care about approval. It responds to direct experience. The moment you begin to tune in even just a little, you'll notice something strange. It starts responding back. Waking up your energy senses isn't about becoming special or spiritual. It's about returning to your baseline, a natural state that was always meant to be accessible. Your body already knows how to do this. It's the mind that gets in the way. Your thoughts want certainty, results, and labels. Energy doesn't operate on that frequency. It moves in response to presence, not performance. And the more you try to force it, the more elusive it becomes. But when you relax into sensation without chasing a goal, you begin to feel it. The tingling between your palms, the magnetic push or pull when you move your hands toward each other, the gentle buzz under your skin. These aren't tricks. They're signs that your awareness is deepening. The hands are often the first place you'll feel it, not because they're magical, but because they're loaded with sensory nerve endings and constantly exposed to feedback. When you hold your hands a few inches apart and simply focus on the space between them, your body starts to pick up on subtle temperature changes, pressure, density, and charge. It might feel like warmth, static magnetism, or even a liquid-like sensation. The trick isn't to label it. The trick is to observe it. Stay with it and let it build. Attention amplifies perception. Stillness magnifies signal. The breath plays a critical role, not because it's mystical, but because it's the switchboard between your conscious mind and your autonomic system. Shallow breath keeps you in mental loops. Deep rhythmic breath brings the body into coherence. The nervous system slows, energy begins to move, and your senses come online. You're not just breathing air. Your breathing pattern carries flow and charge. And when your breath becomes intentional, your energy follows. Stillness is another key, not sitting still in boredom, but being present without distraction. The less fragmented your awareness, the stronger the signal. When you allow yourself to slow down and actually inhabit your body, not just think about it, you create space for sensation to rise. Energy isn't loud by default. It becomes loud when you become quiet. But because modern life teaches you to constantly react, you rarely drop into the depth required to sense it. Waking up your energy senses means reclaiming your capacity to be still even for just a few moments and noticing what shows up. Movement also plays a role. Subtle energy responds to intention, and when paired with motion, it creates a loop of feedback. Slow, deliberate hand movements with focused awareness can reveal currents that feel like fluid tension, warmth, or electromagnetic waves. It's not imagination. It's you finally tuning in to the very real field that's always surrounded you. Visualization helps not because it's magic, but because the brain doesn't fully distinguish between imagined and physical input. When you visualize energy moving through your hands, your nervous system engages with that directionality. You're not pretending, you're training your body to align with your intention. And it's not just about the hands. Over time, you'll start to sense energy through your spine, your gut, your feet, your entire field. You'll begin to notice how emotions change the texture of your space, how thoughts ripple through your body, how other people's energy enters or exits your awareness. You won't need proof. You'll have perception, and that's when the shift happens. When you stop needing anyone to tell you what's real because you can feel it for yourself. This isn't about doing energy tricks or showing off. It's about remembering how to listen. Waking up your energy senses is about quieting the noise long enough to hear what's been there all along. And once you do, you'll start to trust your body again, not just as a vehicle, but as an instrument, one tuned not just to physical sensation, but to frequency, resonance, and flow. This is where the real work begins, not in trying harder, but in perceiving deeper. Because energy doesn't need to be found, it just needs to be felt. Subtle energy isn't some random phenomenon you stumble into by accident. It follows laws, universal patterns that govern how energy moves, how form arises, and how thought becomes reality. These laws weren't invented. They were observed by the ancients, encoded in texts like the Kybalion passed down in fragments, and buried under centuries of dogma and distraction. But once you understand them, not just intellectually, but viscerally, they become tools, not theories. And if you use them, you gain leverage, the kind that turns thought into vibration and vibration into force. The first and most foundational of these principles is the law of mentalism. All is mind. Everything begins in consciousness. Every energetic pattern you emit originates in your mental state. If your thoughts are scattered, your energy is scattered. If your thoughts are sharp, still, and precise, your energy becomes focused like a blade. Mentalism means you don't need to move your body to shift your field. You just need to command it internally with clarity and certainty. You become the source code. Then there's the law of vibration. Nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything has a frequency, including you. Your emotions, your breath, your thoughts, your internal dialogue, they're all vibrations. When your system is chaotic, you attract chaos. When you tune into coherence, when your thoughts, breath, and nervous system are in sync, your field stabilizes. And when your field stabilizes, your influence expands. You're not just vibrating randomly, you're resonating deliberately. This is what ancient practitioners did not through rituals or robes, but through alignment. This brings us to the law of polarity. Everything is dual. Opposites are the same in nature, differing only in degree. Heat and cold, light and dark, stillness and movement. Mastery doesn't come from resisting polarity, it comes from understanding it. You don't run from fear. You transmute it into fuel. You don't deny anger. You refine it into focus. The same charge that destroys can be directed to build. This is the essence of energetic control, not suppression, but redirection. You don't remove the storm. You learn how to sail through it. These principles aren't just abstract ideas, they're operational. You apply them through attention intention, breath posture, and focus. Not by praying to something outside of you, but by commanding what's already inside of you. And no, this isn't about ego. This is about responsibility. Once you realize that your state influences your surroundings, your relationships, and your outcomes, you no longer get to blame randomness. You become the transmitter, not just the receiver. You learn to tune the field instead of reacting to it. That's the shift from unconscious emitter to conscious architect. Rituals, ceremonies, and mantras are just methods of organizing intention, but they're not required. What's required is inner command. Can you hold a single thought in stillness without doubting it? Can you enter a state of mental silence and direct your field without needing outer confirmation? That's the work. That's where hermetic law meets application. And most importantly, that's where energy stops being a concept and starts becoming an extension of your will. When you combine these laws with the energy, you're beginning to sense something clicks. You realize energy doesn't move on emotion alone. It moves through structure that you create. Not rigid routines, but inner architecture, breath patterns, visualization, physical alignment, stillness, and conviction. You don't just send energy out. You hold it, you channel it, you shape it with precision. You use polarity to shift internal states' vibration, to stabilize them, and mentalism to create the blueprint. It's not magic, it's mechanics. The magic was making you believe it was anything else. This is the threshold most never cross. They get a taste of energy, a flicker, a feeling, and they stop. But the ones who learn to direct it, to build with it, to project it, to charge space with it, they become something else entirely. Not special, not chosen, just awake. Because the real power isn't in seeing energy, it's in shaping it. And once you understand the laws that govern the field, you stop waiting for life to happen. You start composing it. The nervous system is the forgotten bridge between your mind and your energy. Most people think energy work is purely about vibes, imagination, or some mystical force floating outside the body. But the truth is far more grounded and far more powerful. The way energy flows through you, how it's held, released, and directed, is all governed by the state of your nervous system. If your body's locked in stress, your field is erratic. If your system is coherent, your field is precise. You can't bend energy with a chaotic signal. You must learn to regulate the instrument before you can command the force. Your nervous system has two primary modes, sympathetic and parasympathetic, fight or flight, or rest and digest. You already know that, but here's what you probably weren't taught. Your energy field changes drastically depending on which state you're in. In a sympathetic state, energy contracts. Your field becomes dense, reactive, defensive. You burn power just trying to stay alert. But in parasympathetic states, deep, calm, conscious breath presence, your field expands. You become receptive, attuned, magnetic. It's not just a mental difference. It's electric, energetic. Your entire frequency shifts with your level of nervous system regulation. Think about the last time you walked into a room and someone's energy was so calm, it felt like gravity. You couldn't explain it, but you felt it. That's nervous system mastery, not dominance, not charisma, coherence. They weren't leaking energy. They were generating it, containing it, and projecting it. Not through force, but through regulation. And that's the secret. You don't increase your energy by trying harder. You increase it by refining your signal. The vagus nerve is central to this. It's not just a biological structure, it's the tuning fork for your entire system. When activated consciously through slow breath, vocal tone, or gentle stimulation, it shifts your body into coherence. That coherence is the foundation of energetic control. From this state, you can begin to direct energy with clarity rather than emotion. You move from reactivity to resonance, and that's when the real control begins. Not the fake kind where you try to dominate the world, but the real kind where your internal state becomes your primary influence. Energy follows the path of least resistance. If your body is tense, your breath shallow, your awareness, fragmented energy scatters. But when the body softens, the breath deepens, and your mind becomes still, energy gathers, it concentrates, and more importantly, it listens. This is what the ancients practiced without needing modern science to explain it. They just knew through repetition and refinement that control over breath and stillness led to control over force. The body becomes the interface, not something to transcend, but something to master. When you move with intention, when you sit with presence, when you breathe as if you're conducting a current, you're no longer waiting for the sensation to arrive. You are generating the conditions that make it inevitable. And those conditions aren't complicated. They're simply unfamiliar because no one taught you how to regulate your system for energy flow. They taught you to grind, push, and stay busy. But energy doesn't respond to noise. It responds to signal clarity.